They lied to you. Every trading book, every guru, every success story. They told you that learning to trade is about strategy, about finding the right indicators, about mastering technical analysis. But that's not what separates the winners from the corpses. I'm Jesse Livermore. I turned $5 into 100 million, then lost it all. Made it back, lost it again. And through 4 bankruptcies and fortunes that would make kings weep, I discovered something they'll never teach you in any course. There are 3 hidden stages. Every trader must survive before a single dollar of consistent profit touches their account. 3 stages that have nothing to do with charts and everything to do with what happens inside your skull when real money is bleeding. Stay with me until the end of this video, and I'll tell you exactly which stage you're in right now and what you must do to escape it. Because knowing your stage, that's the difference between another year of losses and finally breaking through to the other side. Now, if you watched my last video on the 5 signs you're becoming a profitable trader, you know what success looks like when it arrives. But nobody tells you about the hell you have to walk through to get there. That's what this is about. The stages they don't want you to know exist, because if you knew how brutal this journey really was, most of you would quit before you started. But before we dive in, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share this with another trader who's struggling, because they need to hear this. The market doesn't give participation trophies, and neither do I. But if you're serious about this game, you'll want every weapon I'm about to give you. Now let me tell you about these 3 stages. Not because I'm proud of the journey, but because if you're going to trade, you need to know what's coming. You need to know that the pain you're feeling right now, it's not failure, it's education. The most expensive education you'll ever buy. Most men quit before they complete even the first stage. They blow up their accounts, blame the market, and walk away convinced the game is rigged. But the game isn't rigged. It's revealing. Revealing who you really are when money is on the line. Here's what you need to understand before we go deeper. These stages aren't about learning new strategies or finding better setups. They're about transformation. About killing the parts of yourself that will never make money and forging something new from what's left. Each stage strips away a layer of illusion until all that remains is the truth of who you are as a trader. You can't rush this process. You can't skip ahead. I've seen men try to jump from stage 1 to stage 3 by copying someone else's system, by buying expensive courses, by following signals from supposed experts. Every single one of them failed, because the stages aren't about what you know. They're about what you become. The trader who makes it through all 3 stages isn't the same person who started. He can't be. The market won't allow it. It demands a price for success, and that price is everything you thought you knew about yourself, about trading, about making money. Only after you've paid that price, only after you've been broken down and rebuilt, can you truly profit. So, as I walk you through these stages, don't just listen for the lessons. Look for yourself in them, because I guarantee you're in one of these stages right now, whether you know it or not. And understanding which stage you're in is the only way to move forward. Stage 1, the slaughter of certainty. When I first walked into a bucket shop at 14 years old, I thought I had it figured out. Numbers spoke to me. Patterns emerged from the chaos of the tape like constellations in a night sky. I was making money while grown men were losing their shirts, and I thought it was because I was special, because I could see what others couldn't. That's how it starts for everyone. You make your first winning trade, maybe your second and third, and suddenly you believe you've cracked the code. The market feels like a slot machine that pays out every time you pull the lever. You're not trading, you're taking money, and it feels so easy that you start to wonder why everyone isn't rich. Then the market turns. Not gradually, not with warning signs and polite notices that conditions have changed. It turns like a rabid dog, and it goes straight for your throat. I remember my first real beating. I was sure, absolutely certain that a stock would rise. I had watched it for days. The pattern was clear. The opportunity was obvious. So I went heavy, heavier than I should have. When you're certain, you don't hedge. You don't hesitate. You load up because missing out on easy money feels worse than the risk of being wrong. Except I was wrong. And the market didn't just prove me wrong, it humiliated me. This is what happens in stage 1. The market takes everything you believe about yourself and sets it on fire. You learn that confidence isn't an edge, that being smart doesn't protect you, that the market doesn't care about your analysis, your reasoning, or your desperate need to be right. Every trader who survives remembers their stage 1. It's the stage where you learn the first great truth. You know nothing. The patterns you saw, random noise your brain decided had meaning, the intuition you trusted, wishful thinking dressed up as insight, the certainty you felt, the most expensive emotion you'll ever indulge. Most traders quit here. They tell themselves the market is impossible, that success is just luck, that the whole system is designed to take money from ordinary people and give it to the insiders. They're wrong, but I understand why they believe it. When you're certain and you lose, it's easier to blame the game than to accept that you didn't know how to play it. But for those who stay, who are stubborn, enough or desperate enough to keep going, something begins to shift. The pain of losing becomes a different kind of teacher. You start to question everything, not just your trades, but your entire approach, your assumptions, your rules, your understanding of what trading actually is. You realize that the market isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a war to survive. And in war, confidence gets you killed. Stage 1 ends when you finally accept that you were never as smart as you thought. When the embarrassment of losing fades and leaves behind something more valuable. Humility. Real humility. The kind that doesn't just admit you were wrong, but accepts that you'll be wrong again. Many times. And that being wrong isn't failure. It's part of the process. But humility alone won't make you profitable. It just makes you ready for the real work, the work that comes in stage 2. Stage 2, the discipline of waiting. After you've been humbled, after the market has beaten the arrogance out of you, you enter the strangest phase of your trading education. You start to see opportunities everywhere, real opportunities. The patterns you thought you saw before were fantasies, but now you're seeing the actual structure of how markets move, how they breathe, how they telegraph their intentions to anyone patient enough to watch. And here's the torture of stage 2. You see these opportunities, and you absolutely know, that you shouldn't take most of them. The hardest thing I ever learned wasn't how to read a stock or predict a trend. It was how to sit still, how to watch money being made by others and not jump in, how to let perfect setups pass because the conditions weren't exactly right, how to wait. Before the crash of 1907, I watched the market for months. I could feel something building, something wrong in the way stocks were moving. The smart money was distributing. Insiders were getting out. But the public, they were buying everything in sight, convinced that prosperity would last forever. I knew a collapse was coming. I could taste it. But I waited. Day after day, week after week, I waited. Not because I wasn't confident, but because I had learned something essential. Being right too early is the same as being wrong. Timing isn't everything in trading. It's the only thing. This is what stage 2 teaches you. It strips away your need to be constantly in action, your need to prove yourself with every tick of the market, your need to turn every insight into immediate profit. Stage 2 teaches you that the market pays you for patience, not for activity. Most traders who make it past stage 1 fail in stage 2, because this stage doesn't feel like progress. You're not losing money anymore, but you're not making much either. You're sitting on your hands, watching, waiting, letting opportunities pass. It feels passive. It feels like you're wasting time, like you're not really trading, but you are. You're doing the most important work a trader can do. You're learning to wait for your pitch. I used to tell people that I made my money sitting, not thinking, sitting, because the big money isn't made in the trades you take. It's made in the trades you don't take. Every time you pass on a mediocre setup, every time you resist the urge to jump into a position just because you're bored, every time you wait for the perfect alignment of conditions, you're protecting your capital. You're staying alive for the moment when everything lines up and you can go big. The discipline of waiting feels like doing nothing, but it's everything. It's the difference between gamblers and traders. Gamblers need action. They need the rush of having money on the line. Traders need profit, and profit comes from patience. In stage 2, you build your system. not a system of indicators and technical rules, though those have their place. You build a system of emotional control. You learn to separate what you want to happen from what is happening. You learn to read your own fear and greed with the same clarity you read a stock chart. You learn that your biggest enemy isn't the market or other traders or the insiders. It's you, your impatience, your need to be proven right, your fear of missing out. And slowly, trade by trade, you start to develop something that looks like consistency. You're not crushing the market. You're not making headlines, but you're making money. Small wins that compound, losses that stay small, a slowly rising equity curve that reflects not brilliance but discipline. Stage 2 ends when patience stops feeling like a sacrifice and starts feeling like an edge. When sitting out mediocre setups doesn't trigger anxiety, but confidence. When you realize that you don't need to trade every day to be a trader. You just need to be ready when the market offers you the trade you've been waiting for. But even with humility and discipline, you're still not where you need to be. There's one more stage, the hardest stage. The stage where you learn the final secret that separates the professionals from everyone else. Stage 3, becoming the market. After the crash of 1929, after I'd made my greatest fortune shorting the market into oblivion, people treated me like a prophet. They wanted to know how I'd seen it coming, how I'd had the courage to bet everything on the collapse of American prosperity. They thought I'd outsmarted the market, beaten it. They were wrong. I didn't beat the market. I became it. This is the final stage, and it's the one nobody talks about because it's almost impossible to explain. It's not about analysis. It's not about discipline. It's about something deeper. It's about feeling the market's pulse like it's your own heartbeat. About knowing what will happen not because you've predicted it, but because you've aligned yourself so completely with the rhythm of price and volume and sentiment that you move with it instead of against it. In stage 3, you stop fighting the market. You stop trying to impose your will on it or bend it to your analysis. You stop caring about being right. You surrender, not in defeat but in acceptance. You accept that the market is smarter than you, bigger than you, more powerful than you will ever be. And in that acceptance, you find freedom. I remember the feeling the first time I truly experienced it. I was in a position, a big position, and the market started moving against me. The old Jesse, the stage 1 Jesse, would have panicked or averaged down or convinced himself he was right and the market was wrong. The stage 2 Jesse would have stuck to his stop loss, taken the hit, and waited for another setup. But in that moment, I felt something different. I felt the market telling me something. Not through the numbers or the chart or the news, through the movement itself, the way it was rejecting my position, the way the price action was communicating that I was on the wrong side, and instead of fighting it or managing it or rationalizing it, I listened. I got out, not at my stop, before my stop, because I could feel that I was wrong. 3 hours later, the stock collapsed. I'd saved myself a fortune not by following rules, but by becoming sensitive enough to hear what the market was saying. This is stage 3. You develop a sixth sense. Call it intuition. Call it pattern recognition at a subconscious level. Call it whatever you want. But it's real. You start to feel when you're in sync with the market and when you're not. You start to know, before the confirmation, whether a trade is going to work. Not because you're psychic, but because you've logged so many hours, taken so many trades, survived so many markets, that you've internalized the rhythm of it all. And here's what nobody tells you about stage 3. It's lonely, because you can't explain your decisions anymore. When someone asks why you took a trade or why you exited, you can't point to a specific indicator or rule. You did it because it felt right, because the market told you to. And that sounds insane to everyone still struggling through stages 1 and 2. But it's not insane. It's mastery. It's what happens when you've done something so many times that it becomes instinctive. A pianist doesn't think about which fingers to move. A dancer doesn't count steps. And a trader at stage 3 doesn't analyze trades. They feel them. This doesn't mean you abandon rules or discipline. Those are always there, the foundation. But on top of that foundation, you build something else, something that can't be taught or programmed or back-tested. You build a connection to the market itself. The profitable traders, the ones who last, the ones who make real money over decades, they're all in stage 3. They've been humbled, they've learned patience, and then they've transcended the mechanical process of trading and found flow. They've stopped being separate from the market and become part of it. People used to ask me how I could hold a position through violent swings that would terrify other traders, how I could stay short while everyone around me was going long, how I knew when to pyramid into a winner and when to take profits. I couldn't explain it then, and I can barely explain it now. I just knew. The same way you know when you're falling in love or when someone's lying to you. Some knowledge doesn't come from thought. It comes from somewhere deeper. The truth they don't want you to know. Here's what Wall Street won't tell you. You cannot skip these stages. You cannot read a book or take a course or follow a guru and jump straight to profitability. You have to lose. You have to fail. You have to go through the humiliation of stage 1, the frustration of stage 2, and the isolation of stage 3. There are no shortcuts through this process. Only through. I went broke multiple times. 4 times I lost everything and had to start over. Each time, I thought I'd learned enough. Each time, the market showed me I hadn't. But each time, I came back stronger. Not because I was tougher or smarter or more talented, because I refused to quit before I'd completed the journey. The 3 stages aren't a curriculum. They're a crucible. They burn away everything that doesn't work. Your false confidence, your impatience, your ego, your need to be right. They burn it all away until what's left is a trader, not a gambler, not a theorist, not a hopeful amateur, a trader. And when you finally become a trader, when you've survived all 3 stages and come out the other side, you realize something profound. The money was never the point. The money is just the score. What you've really gained is something more valuable. You've learned who you are when everything is on the line. You've learned to trust yourself in the face of uncertainty. You've learned to make decisions with incomplete information and live with the consequences. Those skills, they're worth more than any fortune. So, if you're losing right now, if you're in stage 1 getting your teeth kicked in, don't quit. The pain is the lesson. Learn it. If you're in stage 2, frustrated because you're not making money fast enough, don't abandon your discipline. The patience you're building is your edge. And if you're somewhere between stages, still trying to figure out where you fit, know this. Every master trader who ever lived walked this exact path.